Let's be honest, you're not ready, and you know it. Not as an insult, but as a quiet truth you've been trying to outrun. That weight you carry, that hollow ache in your chest, that strange discomfort that lingers even when everything seems fine. It's not random. It's not weakness. It's a warning. The universe doesn't hand you power without preparation. What you're feeling isn't anxiety without cause. It's the sharpening of the blade before it's handed to you. Ever notice how everything seems to fall apart right before something major is about to begin? Relationships break, your body crashes, motivation disappears. It feels like regression, but it isn't. You're not falling apart. You're being stripped of everything you're not. It's not punishment, it's preparation. And that's what most people don't understand. The universe doesn't reward desire. It responds to readiness. Carl Jung saw this with brutal clarity. The unconscious grows tired of waiting. When it's time for you to change, it doesn't ask politely. It drags you into chaos. Because chaos is the only language deep enough to rewrite a soul. That sudden breakup, that job you lost when you needed it most, that betrayal you never saw coming. They weren't mistakes. They were surgical interventions. They weren't ruining your life. They were cleaning it out. But you called it unfair. You blamed the world. And now you wonder why things still don't shift. Do you want to know the real wall between you and what you want? It's not the world, not the system, not them. It's the version of you still anchored to the past. The part that wants to evolve, but refuses to release control. The part that wants to move forward without letting go of comfort. The part that wants transformation, but without dying. Yes, dying. Because for something new to be born in you, something old has to vanish. Your ego, for example, the voice that once protected you, but now has become your prison. The ego doesn't want real change. It wants cosmetic upgrades. It wants growth without risk. It wants safety, even if that safety keeps you small. So when real transformation begins, the ego fights back. It resists, and that's where the suffering begins. But here comes the most brutal part. Suffering is not the enemy. It's the signal, it's the key. It shows up because you're crossing a threshold. And every threshold between the old and the new demands a pause. Or did you think you could cross over without paying the price? That silence you've been feeling lately, that emptiness, it's not abandonment. It's the stillness between collapse and reconstruction. It's the fertile ground left behind after the fire. And in that ground, what you plant will grow stronger than ever. But only if you choose to plant with intention. This moment, this space between who you were and who you are becoming, is sacred. It's where you decide if you'll be a repetition of your past or the start of something radically different. So look inward. What patterns are you still repeating? What fears are you still feeding? What control are you refusing to release? These are the questions the universe throws at you before it changes your life. And if you don't answer them truthfully, the thing you're asking for won't come. Not because you don't deserve it, but because you wouldn't be able to hold it without collapsing. Life doesn't give you what you ask for. It gives you what you've outgrown. And outgrowing something means facing everything that kept you small. That's why the tests aren't punishment. They're preparation. Every person who disappointed you was an invitation to build boundaries. Every failure was a second chance to choose again, but wiser. Every loss was a reminder. Nothing outside you is permanent. The only thing that truly matters is what you build within. And while you thought the universe was ignoring you, it was actually watching you. Watching what you choose when no one's watching. Watching whether you respond with fear or truth, with anger or peace. That's the real test. Not what you do when things go right, but who you become when nothing is working. That's when your essence is revealed. And if that essence is real, if it's coherent, if it holds, then doors open you never imagined. Because the universe doesn't gather the smartest, or the strongest, or the prettiest. It gathers the consistent, the brave, the real, especially when no one's clapping. You know why? Because real transformation is silent. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need likes. It doesn't seek validation. It forms in the dark, in solitude, in surrender. And when it arrives, it doesn't need to convince anyone. It just is. So if you're in a moment where nothing makes sense, don't run, don't escape, don't perform. Look deeper. You might be standing in the center of the shift you asked for, but you haven't yet proved you're ready to carry it. And here comes the challenge. How do you move when the universe goes silent? What do you choose when there are no signs? Who are you when no one is watching? Because the world is full of people who say they want change. Most people don't change for themselves. They want the next chapter, but they won't close the last one. They want the extraordinary, but they resist releasing the familiar. That's not how this works. Real alchemy begins the moment you stop chasing what only can be built from within. When your inner peace becomes more expensive than any external prize. When you finally understand that what's happening to you is not personal, it's universal. Everyone gets pulled into the fire. Only a few run before it's done. Do you have the courage to stay inside? To let the ego burn? And something more honest, more essential, more you emerge? Because if you do, the universe will notice. And then you won't have to chase change. Change will come to you, not as a reward, but as the natural consequence of who you've become. And here at this point lies the final paradox. The moment you no longer need the transformation is the moment it arrives, because you've become the kind of person who isn't addicted to outcomes, but grounded in the process. That's what the universe was waiting for all along. So now you know. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. The question is, will you take the test? And if you've made it this far, let's go deeper. Into a distinction few people dare to face. The difference between being tested and being revealed. Because yes, life pulls you. Yes, you face chaos, but the chaos isn't shaping something new. It's exposing what was always inside you, hidden, unseen, denied. That's where most people collapse. They think they're being broken, when in truth, they're being exposed. And what shows up isn't always beautiful. Insecurity, the need for validation, emotional dependency, arrogance dressed as confidence, fear disguised as logic. All of it was already in you. Now under pressure, you can't hide it anymore. And this is the turning point. The pressure didn't break you. It just made your fractures visible. And once they're visible, you can't pretend anymore. You either face them or swallow that empty phrase. Everything happens for a reason, without ever truly understanding what it means. And here comes the most subtle, most powerful shift. What's happening to you isn't a test of strength. It's a cleansing of sight. You don't need to be stronger. You need to see clearer. Look at the habits you repeat without thinking. The beliefs about yourself you've carried since childhood. The stories you keep telling just to avoid admitting you can't keep being who you were. This is where the shadow enters. The part of you learned to hide just to be accepted. The part you silenced to feel loved. The part you buried to belong. Jung said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." That's what this is. The tests are not punishment. They are flashlights. They shine into places you've always avoided. You know why most people never change, even when life is screaming at them to do it? Because it's easier to stay broken in the familiar than be healed in the unknown. The ego prefers dysfunction because at least it's predictable. But transformation never happens in the known. It happens in the free fall, and to fall, you first have to let go. Letting go isn't giving up. It's trust. It's telling life, I have no control, but I have faith that this means something. And that faith isn't blind belief. It's clarity. The kind that only comes when you look back and realize everything you lost was exactly what needed to go. Every break, every silence, every failure was a meeting with a part of yourself you didn't even know existed. Because real transformation isn't mystical. It's not fireworks or enlightenment montages. Sometimes it's a random Wednesday, crying in your car, realizing you can't keep pretending you're okay. It's brutal, it's rare, but it's real. And real is the only thing that can change you. Everything else is spiritual entertainment. And the universe isn't here to entertain you. It's here to awaken you. To show you again and again that what you're searching for has always been inside. Just buried beneath layers of fear, pride, control, and self-betrayal. You want to manifest a new reality? Great. But let's be clear. The price is your current version. You don't get to take it with you. Not because it's bad, but because it's incomplete. It was built from survival, not from truth. That's the next level of this conversation. Surviving isn't the same as living. The ego survives. The soul lives. As long as you make decisions to avoid pain, impress others, and keep control, you'll keep surviving. But the moment you choose truth over comfort, coherence over control, that's when life begins. You know what the most powerful thing is you can do when the universe tests you? Not fight. Not endure. Listen. Because every test carries a message, not written in signs, encoded in your pain. What bothers you the most is what you most need to confront. What scares you the most is what you most need to walk into. Pain isn't the problem. The problem is not knowing how to read it. As long as you see difficulties as punishments instead of messages, you'll keep missing the gift inside them. You're not being punished. You're being invited to remember who you are beneath all the masks. The universe doesn't want you strong. It wants you honest, because from honesty comes real power. Not the kind that demands attention, but the kind that radiates quietly, unshakably. And that's the core of real change. Not forcing a new version of yourself, but letting the true version finally surface. The one that's been buried beneath everything you were taught to be. Are you willing to let that version live? Because that, and only that, determines whether you're ready to hold what you've asked for. Remember this. You are not what happens to you. You are how you respond. And when that response comes from truth instead of fear, the universe reflects back. It always has. Now maybe for the first time, you're ready to look in the mirror without lying. You want to keep going. Good. Because this is just the beginning. Let's talk about something uncomfortable, something that reveals self-deception for what it really is. A defense and a slow sabotage. What if the thing blocking you isn't the universe? What if it's you? Not because you fear failure, but because you fear success. As backwards as that sounds, there's a part of you that's not afraid to fall. It's afraid to shine. Because shining means responsibility. It means you don't get to hide behind safe excuses anymore. You'll have to move. You'll have to show up. And that's where the mind gets loud. That brilliant machine that keeps building stories, justifications, endless plans, all designed to make you feel like you're moving forward, when you're really just circling the same cage. Sound familiar? That feeling of being busy, doing things, reading, planning, preparing, but somehow not moving an inch closer to where you actually want to be. It's the trap of infinite preparation, the lie of, I'm not ready yet. But here's the truth. You'll never feel ready to step into the unknown, because real readiness isn't something you complete before the leap. It's something that awakens when you leap. Yes, your mind protects you, but it also paralyzes you, because its job isn't to make you happy. It's to make you feel safe, even if that safety is just a cage dressed as stability. So you repeat the same safe cycle. Better the familiar pain than the risk of the unknown. Better wait a little longer. Better stay here, just for now. And the universe watches in silence, not punishing you, not abandoning you, just waiting for you to step out of the loop. Because until you do, no miracle can reach you. And here comes the brutality of the process. Inner change isn't marked by intention. It's marked by action. It's not defined by what you want, but by what you're willing to leave behind. And here's the truth almost no one wants to accept. You cannot hold on to your old identity and still receive a new life. You can't demand a new reality while clinging to your same role inside it. Most people want change, but without changing themselves. And that is the most sophisticated form of sabotage. You think you're walking toward your destiny, but you're dragging a bag full of everything that anchors you to the past. Your outdated thoughts, your knee-jerk reactions, your addiction to drama, your obsession with needing to understand before you trust. And when you bring all that into the future, you don't evolve, you repeat. Different faces, different settings, different goals, but the same underlying pattern. Let's talk about cycles, not calendar ones. The personal ones, the loops that repeat in your life with surgical precision. Same relationship dynamic, same emotional trigger, same crash point. Why? Because you didn't learn the lesson. Because instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You should be asking, why is this happening again? Until you change your response, the universe will repeat the question. Until you choose differently, the cycle will continue. Because life isn't governed by time, it's governed by consciousness. And when there's no awareness, there's repetition. But when you wake up, even a little, just enough to realize you can't keep being the same, there's no going back. The awakening is irreversible. It may hurt, it may shake you, it may make you doubt everything, but you can't unsee what you've seen. You can't unfeel what cracked you open. Even if you try to return to your old habits, they feel foreign now. You don't fit where you used to, because you're not who you were. And that's beautiful, but also brutal. No one warns you that the price of awakening is constant discomfort, a hunger for truth, an intolerance for anything that smells like a lie, especially if it comes from you. Here's the deeper cut, the pain of identity. To become who you're meant to be, you have to say goodbye to who you used to be. And I'm not just talking about habits. I'm talking about the image you built to survive, the version of you designed to be loved, to fit in, to stay safe. You will have to let that one die. You'll have to admit that much of what you defended so fiercely was just armor to avoid feeling vulnerable, that the strength you flaunted was often just a mask wrapped around fear. And yes, that hurts. It hurts to look back and realize you spent years trapped in a version of yourself that wasn't fully true. But that pain is medicine, because the more honestly you confront your illusions, the more space you create for what's real. And in that empty space, without pretense, without performance, that's where the universe finally moves. Not because you became perfect, but because you finally became real, human, honest, ready to grow from the inside, not from a facade. And when you arrive there, something shifts. You stop chasing signs. You no longer need proof that everything's going to be okay, because now you know. Because you feel it. Because you've become the kind of person who doesn't need certainty to keep walking. The kind of person who no longer negotiates with intuition, who no longer delays truth. Who trusts the next step, even when the full path isn't visible. And maybe that, more than anything, is the real transformation. To stop chasing certainty and start living from presence, from surrender, from conscious surrender, not as defeat, but as wisdom. Because the person who truly surrenders doesn't give up. They align, they adapt, they transform, and then, only then, the universe responds with clarity. Life doesn't respond to your desire. It responds to your frequency, when your energy is no longer split between what you want and what you fear, between what you say and what you actually do. Everything changes. Because the universe doesn't judge, it reflects. So now you're here, face to face with the most powerful and honest version of yourself. The question is no longer, can you do this? The real question is, do you have the courage to stop being who you were and finally become who you were meant to be? You've made it to the edge. Now only one choice remains. Jump, or keep collecting excuses dressed as logic. Because yes, the hardest part isn't the leap. It's stopping the justification for not leaping. It's accepting that life doesn't change with intentions. It changes with decisions. And the time to decide isn't tomorrow. Not when you feel more prepared. Not when you're less broken. It's now. Because now is the only moment you are actually free. But listen carefully. This isn't about an impulsive move. It's not empty motivation. It's that quiet moment when your soul stops speaking and just says without words, enough. Enough begging for validation. Enough comforting yourself with familiar pain. Enough trying to change the world without first facing your own shadows. Enough isn't loud, it's quiet. It's not shouted, it's felt. And when it arrives, you know. You recognize it because everything inside you aligns. And suddenly, you don't need more reasons. You just move. And in that movement, what was once hidden becomes visible. Clarity doesn't come before the decision. It comes after. So stop waiting for the sign. You are the sign. You are the moment. when you choose not to look back, when you respond to the universe, not with begging, but with commitment. Because in the end, the universe doesn't hear your words. It watches your movements. And now, here comes the conclusion no one sees coming. What you want already exists. It's already unfolding in a timeline where you chose differently, where you didn't fall into the same old pattern, where you stopped waiting for permission, where you didn't negotiate your essence, that version of you. It's alive. Right now. You want it? Then do what they would do. Breathe like them, think like them, choose like them. Because the secret isn't forcing the future, it's becoming someone who makes that future inevitable. So do it. Without pressure, without fear, without trying to prove anything. Do it for the part of you that knows you didn't come here to survive. You came here to break from the inside, until all that's left is raw, living authenticity. The part of you that doesn't need approval to exist. The part of you that's already awake, just waiting for you to stand. And now, I challenge you. If you've made it this far, if anything in you resonated, write this below. I'm ready to be who I've always been. Not to prove it to anyone else, but to remind yourself, in your own voice, that the shift has already begun. You're already moving. And if this broke you, even a little, if it made you question something you once thought was certain, subscribe, not to follow anyone, but to keep diving deeper into yourself. We're not here to entertain your ego. We're here to dissolve it. And now I say goodbye. But not with some recycled farewell. I leave you with a warning, one that leaves a mark. Next time everything feels like it's falling apart, don't run. Observe, breathe, be grateful. Because it might not be your ending. It might be the exact moment your real story begins. I'll see you on the other side, the side where you don't fake, don't run, don't wait. You just are. You just create. You just live. And until then, the universe is already taking notes.